Every kid has a dream. The Little League hitter who imagines himself in the World Series. The Pee Wee hockey player who hopes to play on a Stanley Cup team. The young sailor who dreams of crewing on a 12-meter yacht in the America's Cup.
The 12-meter begins with a whole lot of ideas, not with a single idea.
Canada's first 12-meter yacht began as a line on a piece of paper in the studio of Canadian designer Bruce Kirby.
Hopefully you've got in your mind a lot of ideas for hull shape, for keel shape, for rudder configuration, and so on, and rig, and even cockpit layout. And the whole thing has to work together.
Canada's finest craftsmen were brought together to create a boat that would challenge the world's best in America's Cup competition.
The process involves taking the set of lines which I've drawn and then reproducing that same drawing on the floor, full size. That's called lofting. And then from the lofting, you can cut out each frame of the boat, right from measurements taken off the loft floor. Those patterns are cut out in wood, first of all, very, very accurately, and then transferred to aluminum. And they cut them out in aluminum, bend them, weld them up, whatever is required for that particular frame. The aluminum is better for two or three reasons. A, it does give the best strength to weight ratio. And another serious consideration is that if you want to make a change in the boat, it's much easier with aluminum. You can take a saw and saw a chunk out of the boat and put another piece in a matter of days, which you couldn't do with wood or fiberglass. The boat's built upside down, so the deck is laid first, and then the frames are set up on the deck at precise intervals. And then after that's done, the plating is begun. You start putting the skin of aluminum on the boat. The skin varies from a 1/4 inch to 1/8 inch. Most of it's 3/16. And then you fill it in. It's a very quick way to build a sailboat. The whole 12-meter thing is so complex that without a team, a pretty damn big team, there's just no way you can mount a proper challenge or a defense. And the designer gets credit, obviously, but the skipper of the boat, every man on the boat, and I think in particular, the people who organize the thing deserve a tremendous amount of credit, because without really good organization, you just can't get anywhere.
And in November 1982, Canada 1 was launched. This was Canada's first challenge for the America's Cup in more than 100 years. And though the Challenge Syndicate had been plagued by financial setbacks since the beginning, the beautiful white boat with the red stripe had already begun to capture the country's imagination.
The reason I'm I'm here tonight is that I have fallen in love with this story. The story of Canada won its first challenge for the America's Cup since 1881.
The boat was introduced to the public early in 1983. The dedication ceremony at the Toronto Boat Show drew thousands of supporters.
It's been a pleasure to meet Marvin McDill, who is the chairman of this event, and I'd now like to introduce him to you.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the whole idea occurred to us about 3 years ago now. A group of fellows sitting in Calgary were concerned that our country wasn't doing the sort of things to get the spirit of the people that we thought existed. And this is a small...
When people thought about that, they usually reflected upon sporting events that had taken place in the past, particularly the 1972 Russia-Canada hockey series, when for a few brief moments in our history the country seemed to be all together and all pulling for the same cause. And so was there something we could do to rekindle that kind of spirit?
So the suggestion was made about the America's Cup. Now, for those of you who don't know very much about the America's Cup, there are certain ingredients that appeal to us. First of all, it had to be a boat designed and built in Canada, and it had to be sailed by Canadians.
Regardless of the fact that a challenge comes from a particular yacht club, it does get identified with that country. And so the boat that emanates from that country becomes symbolic of the spirit of that particular country. The crew that is put on the boat becomes symbolic of those people in the eyes of the world.
I've got Sandy Andrews from Toronto, Ontario. I've got Jeff Boyd from Kingston. Don Campbell from Vancouver. Phil Dow from Halifax. Ed Giles from Toronto. Eric Jesperson from Sydney, British Columbia. And Robin Wynne Edwards from Kingston. As fine a group of young Canadians as you will ever see.
Canada One was christened by Dr. Patricia Taylor, wife of Ambassador Ken Taylor.
I hereby christen you Canada One.
Over the next 10 days of the boat show, Canada One became a genuine star, visited by 180,000 admirers. Here also began a remarkable outpouring of financial support from ordinary people, individuals and families, donating what they could.
That's tremendous. You're supporting the greatest thing in Canadian yachting ever.
Their help, along with the support of many big corporations, would get Canada One to Newport.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Good luck, fellas. Thank you. Bring home the bacon.
The crew sails Canada One on a cold, sunny day in Lake Ontario. Months of hard work and intensive training lie ahead, but for today, they can enjoy the pleasure of sailing their own America's Cup contender in home waters. After a quick shakedown in icy Lake Ontario, Canada One headed south for winter training in Florida. On February 9th, 1983, Canada 1 arrived in Miami. Her companion ship Clipper was waiting, and the Canadians wasted no time getting both boats into the water. Clipper was the team's trial horse, the well-known American 12-meter which the Canadians had bought and trained on during the year that Canada 1 was being built. Canada 1's first true test would be racing against Clipper in Florida. The Canadian crew worked on the two boats from their first day in Florida. Every job, from rigging the sails to sanding the decks, as well as the countless routine maintenance tasks, was performed by the crew who would also be sailing Canada 1.
Forget all the ritual that goes along with it, you know? Get all the sails on board, get everything ready. Everybody's got their own little job to do.
Millen, Corness, sailing, Boyd, Jesperson on the main, and Win Edwards, Burton, Ryan. Who's navigator? Oh, Franz Rosenauer? Regular day will be breakfast at 6:55, down the boats right away, off the dock at the latest at 8:30, so we'll be out sailing by 9 o'clock. And then, you know, maybe a couple hours of straight line testing, a couple hours of mark rounding drills. And we got a lot of crew work practice to do, racing practice, a lot of starting practice for me, a lot of very close maneuvers with two boats for Jeff and I to get used to. We usually like to end off the day with a couple of short races just to get people excited at the beginning. And we'll be off the water probably between 5 and 7, depending on the day.
What happened?
We're gonna put it on hold for today.
What's the problem?
We just haven't had enough time in the boat. So
What about
it's pretty windy. Well, it's gonna be lumpy, and there's supposed to be a front coming through. So.
The winter of 1983 was unusually stormy in Miami, but the Canadians couldn't afford to lose much valuable training time. They took great risks to continue sailing, and the toll on their boats was high. First, Clipper lost one of her heavy weather genoas in suddenly gusting winds. But worse for the Canadian team was the loss of Canada 1's only heavy weather mainsail. Though it was an old practice sail, it was all they had while the new sails were being made.
What happens now, Terry?
Not really sure. We need more sails than usual.
The cart tilts that way, okay? So I wouldn't be surprised that this front hand here...
During their 6 weeks of sailing in Florida, the Canadians worked long hours on sail testing, boat maintenance, and crew work, preparing themselves for the challenging summer ahead in Newport.
This is the domain of the fellow they call the point man or the foredeck man, and he's changing jibs, driving the spinnaker, and so on. It's It's a job for a real athlete and someone with a great sense of balance and a great sense of timing. The next fellow aft is called the mast man. His job is to get the sails, spinnakers and headsails out from down below, and then his job is working the halyards, pulling the halyards out of the mast as the other members of the crew winch the sail up. He's a sort of an expediter. And here we have a fellow who does a tremendous amount of work. He's called the foxhole man, and this, of course, is the foxhole. This fellow, although he doesn't have a lot of physical work to do, he has a tremendous number of things. It includes raising and lowering sails. It includes raising and lowering the spinnaker pole, various control devices on the mainsail. A miscue by this fellow can cause a real mess on the foredeck because the other people who work up here are relying on him to do the right thing at the right time. Moving on aft, and here we have the fellows who do the heavy work. These are the main winches, and the winch grinders simply work in here. There are two of them at times, and at times we can put 4 men on these main winches. So these handles, which they really dig into, turn the drums of the main winches. The fellows who work in these holes are the jib trimmers, and their job is to handle the lines that go around these winches. The reason they're positioned here is so they can look outboard and see forward. They are constantly looking at the headsail with the line around the winch, always handheld, never cleated. They can work with the helmsman to keep the jib trimmed exactly right. The fellow who works right in the middle of the boat here is the main sheet trimmer. As far as speed is concerned, this fellow is probably the most important man on the boat because he's controlling the aerodynamic shape of the mainsail itself. The tactician's job is simply to advise the skipper on where the opposition is and where he thinks they should be. On the other side is the navigator, and his job is to, from a navigational point of view, not get lost, but he also has to call the ley lines. In other words, the quickest way to get around the course. Right aft in the cockpit is the domain of the skipper, or the helmsman, and from here he can see everyone on the boat, and also, of course, see the sails. He can help critique the sail trim, but because a 12-meter is really an 11-man job, the skipper pretty well sticks to the steering. I don't know of any other sport where there are so many variables. There may be one, but I don't know what it is. And I think what makes yacht racing so incredibly fascinating is that you never really learn it all. No matter how many times you go out there and race, you know damn well that you don't know everything about it, and that next time out you're going to learn something new. A boat like a 12-meter is even more complex, of course, than a smaller boat. The strains in the rigging and the hull are quite exceptional. There's over 100,000 pounds of load between the shrouds and the mast. That type of load, of course, takes its toll, and you have to be constantly on the alert for breakage in these boats and try to catch things before they happen.
It's late spring of 1983. The Canadians are training in the Atlantic Ocean off Rhode Island. There are only 3 weeks left before the first round of racing begins, and Canada 1 has broken her mast. The crew has 2 immediate concerns, saving the boat and saving the mast. Crewman Rob Webb jumps into the freezing water of Narragansett Bay and wraps a line around the broken spar. This will prevent it from smashing into the hull of the boat and perhaps sinking her. It will also allow the crew to salvage the shattered mast, one of the most expensive pieces of equipment on the boat. The broken mast is a major setback to the Canadian program. It will take 2 weeks to repair the break, 2 lost weeks of training, sail testing, and fine-tuning boat and crew.
Fernando, bow. You can lift the spar up a bit. We can cut the sand off. Lift one in. It's pretty punched anyway. Why don't you get
You know what?
mark all the rigging.
Measures now. We can do anything here.
Canada 1's financial troubles have surfaced again. There is no extra money, so funds will have to be raised back in Canada to buy a new mast. In the meantime, the crew works long hours to repair the damage, and Canada 1 is made ready for the first series of races. There's no place quite like Newport, Rhode Island during an America's Cup summer. The historic New England port has been a luxury playground for millionaires and a major tourist spot since the 1890s, when these summer cottages were built. Every 3 years, the added attraction of America's Cup competition raises the town's excitement level even further.
Attitude adjustment time.
The Canadians worked hard, and every now and then they needed a break.
We're at attitude adjustment right now. Okay? Marsha, you gotta come here. Come here.
We're gonna head out.
You're gonna talk to Eddie.
How you doing?
Yeah, you say that to all the boys.
The most lavish event of the social season at Newport was the ball hosted by the British syndicate, which featured the Irish Guard and a prince of the realm. The British Bulldog symbolized Syndicate head Peter de Savry's determination to take the Cup back to England after an absence of 132 years. For the flamboyant Englishman, money was no object. De Savry's 140-foot yacht, Charisma, was headquarters for the British effort, and with his flotilla of support craft and a staff and crew of almost 100, he far outspent the other challengers. Victory 83 was the second 12-meter built by de Savary for his America's Cup Challenge. When an earlier yacht proved to be too slow, he simply scrapped it. Now his hopes rested on his new boat and his multi-million-dollar campaign. First among the challengers was Australia 2 from the Royal Perth Yacht Club. Rumored to have a keel of revolutionary design, she captured the attention of the yachting world and dominated the competition from day one. The French, under the leadership of veteran skipper Bruno Troublé, were back in Newport for their fourth challenge. The underdog, down to the black nose on her bow, was Advance. The campaign from Sydney, Australia, never really got off the ground. In their first ever America's Cup competition, the Italians, sponsored by the Aga Khan, mounted a stylish campaign. Their yacht Azura surprised observers with her speed and beauty. Challenge 12 from the Royal Victoria Yacht Club in Melbourne was the third Australian entry. She was designed by Ben Lexon, who also designed Australia 2. The Challenger trials consisted of 3 series of round-robin match races to select 4 semi-finalists. By the end of Series C, Australia 2 and Victory 83 were assured of their semi-final berths. There were 3 boats vying for the remaining 2 places: Canada 1, Challenge 12, and Azura. Canada met Challenge 12 in the second last race of Series C and lost.
There should be a set, you guys should have gone over it 100 times, enough to know that there should be a set time, you know, and you have to translate that into boat lengths for the wind condition where the pole's up and ready.
On board Canada 1 after the race, skipper Terry McLaughlin conducted the post-mortem. The Canadians had 1 chance left to make the semi-finals, and he was determined that they would succeed.
Twice. Everett says you weren't, you guys were looking at the foredeck or something.
I had to get the boat tight.
In America's Cup, they don't collapse the spinnaker in the middle of the reach. They don't even collapse at the end of the reach until they time to take it down. I don't know what the problem is. I mean, they got to have awesome crew work for the next few days.
Canada's last chance for a semi-final spot rests on tomorrow's race against Azura. Italian skipper Chino Ricci expresses his respect for the Canadian team and his concern about the outcome.
I think our enemy, if the word is good, is the Canadian boat. It's a very strong boat, and the crew too. I think the luck can decide if we or the Canadian are the boat for the 4th place.
Preparation for the crucial race follows the established routine. Canada 1 is hauled out of the water and the hull is scrubbed down and wet sanded to maximize boat speed. A list of repairs compiled by the crew after the race is given to the maintenance team.
Okay, drill the number 6 track holes so the plungers fit into the stoppers. Maybe we can push that dent out underneath the forward pump hole on the port side. New number 6 sheets is a rigger. The splice in the main sheet is a rigger. The main sheet tie down, you know, that wire to move it up to that big frame that goes across right underneath there.
So to make the sails easier to move?
Yeah. Make you just so that people can move. Yeah, really, it's a way better place for it.
These repairs, along with dozens of regular chores, will keep them working through the night. Working on maintenance isn't as glamorous as crewing on Canada 1, but a 12-meter yacht is a miracle of high technology, and the people who keep it running are crucial to its success.
What else we got after this? Got the vane crack. What's wrong with the vane? Going wrong.
During this night's work, the maintenance team checks every inch of the boat, making fine adjustments that could make the difference between winning and losing tomorrow's race.
All right.
WD-40?
What is that?
Are we looking for override on it?
10 miles away, in an abandoned skating rink, the Canadian sailmakers are also putting in a long night, making Canada 1's sail inventory race ready. At Sherman House, Canadian crew headquarters, the day of the race against Azura begins like every other day, early. Sandy Andrews from Toronto is the bowman for Canada 1. Al McGarry from Burlington, Ontario is the starboard tailor. Both of them have sailed all their lives. They met for the first time 2 years ago when they were selected for the crew of Canada 1.
What time they head out this morning? 5:30? 6 o'clock.
The challenge has been an unforgettable experience for the young sailors from across Canada who make up the crew. They've lived and worked together for the past 2 years. Most important, they've learned to function as a team. It hasn't been an easy skill to acquire, but each one knows that if Canada 1 succeeds, it will be a shared success.
How many sheets we got to do today?
I think this is the only one.
Not too bad.
Sandy and Al and mastman Dave Shaw are responsible for the sail inventory. Every morning, they inspect the spinnakers and pack them away for the day's racing.
No rip today? No, don't think there's even pinholes.
They did a nice repair on Jeff's rip.
Kidding. Not looking bad, I did? No.
Good. It's almost dry.
It,
should be done pretty soon.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Finished.
What's that?
Here, you carry this one. I don't want to carry it. All right. Like for us, it's a breezy day, too.
Yeah, maybe it'll build, too, coming from the southwest. Good day to race Azura, that's for sure. Hope we're not over the limit range of that new number 2.
Well, even so, we still have Kevlar 3. Probably our best sail right now.
Yeah, I know, but I'd far rather use just a Kevlar leech sail.
If we get any light air from speed, all we can do is hopefully let it sit right on top of it.
Yeah, Azura's got a great number 2.
The downwind speed hasn't been, their downwind speed in any sort of air isn't really spectacular.
No, it's not overwhelming.
Light stuff that I think we're going to have some problems.
After a briefing on the day's weather, the crew makes the final selection of sails for the race.
Got a twist in it.
They'll need 6 headsails and 8 spinnakers to cover the possible variations in weather. Choosing the right sails for the predicted wind strength is an important factor in race strategy.
What is it? Okay.
Even the order in which they're packed away could make a difference on the race course.
Coming down. Stop.
All summer long, Canadian supporters had lined the fence at the Newport shipyard to watch Canada 1 prepare for her races.
Well, good luck, fellas.
Okay.
Go sailing.
Thanks, Mark.
On the day of the biggest race yet, the support of the fans from home lifted the crew's spirits.
We'll cover the line, okay. As soon as we
On board the committee boat, the race committee prepares for the day's competition. This prestigious group of yachtsmen from around the world is responsible for laying the course, officiating at the start, and judging the finish. Bearings are taken with mathematical precision. At this point, the race can still be called off if conditions aren't suitable.
Bearing's good.
20. 21.
When the wind is right, Committee Chairman Jock Smith sets the start line.
Okay, you're there, .22.
Okay.
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1, now!
15 minutes before the start, the race committee raises the course signals. From now on, the events of the race will occur in an automatic sequence. Azura and Canada 1 enter the start area and begin maneuvering for the crucial starting advantage.
Sandy?
When one is in the dominant position, he can keep himself between his opponent and the starting line, guaranteeing that he will start first.
Try it. Driving quick.
Canadian skipper Terry McLaughlin made news at Newport with his aggressive style. He won more starts than any skipper in Series A and continued to intimidate his opposition as the Challenger races progressed.
Now he is back. Okay, aboard! Coming upward. 26, red shape, good. Up, up. Good. Way over. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
6-9, 7-9.
Good sequence.
With a 20-second lead at the start, the Canadians are in a dominant position. From here on, they'll be fighting to stay on top. Canada One's instruments provide a continuous readout of information about wind speed and direction. The tailors call out the boat speed in knots throughout the race so the crew can maximize the boat's performance.
6-1, 6-2, 6-4, 6-4, 6-5, 6-6, 6-7, 6-9, 7-9. 7-2.
Get any more lift for it.
Your wind is 12-4.
5. Canada One holds her lead up the 4.5-mile windward leg and rounds the first mark with Azura close behind. downwind leg, Azura has closed to within 20 yards and threatens to steal Canada's wind.
Faster, Dave! Keep it over, keep it over. Get the main going back. Come on, Johnny, get the ball back. Faster, Dave! Protest. Put the protest flag up. Put the flag. I keep saying Master Dave and you keep coming up. Lazy sheep when you can't. Okay.
The final leg of the race. Canada's lead has been further eroded. Now the Italian yacht initiates a fierce tacking duel in a desperate effort to break free of Canada's cover and pull ahead.
Speed 8, 6, 8, 6, 9. We're dragging the sheet. Back it! Coming to! Back it! Back it!
He's gonna duck us. 8-1.
Canada 1 crosses the finish line ahead of Azura. 3.5 hours of intensely competitive sailing over the 24-mile course have ended in victory and a place in the semifinals. Less than 2 weeks later, the Canadian crew rode back to Sherman House for the last time. Canada 1 had been eliminated from the semifinals.
In the meantime, do you need them for anything today? They're right next to me.
September 26, 1983, the last race of the best-of-7 series in the America's Cup final. Australia 2 versus the defender Liberty. And the pressure is on for American skipper Dennis Conner.
132 years of history is now resting on your shoulders. And it all comes down to 3 hours. How's it going to make you feel if you lose?
We know in our hearts that we've done a fantastic job in this defense on our own. That we beat two very formidable boats and crews to become the defender. And we know in our hearts and minds that we've done everything humanly possible to prepare our defense. And if they're better, that's the way yacht racing goes. But we won't look back or second guess ourselves, because I'm very, proud of the effort that we put forth, and the guys have done a terrific job, and they have nothing to be ashamed of, win or lose.
American supporters are confident that Liberty will retain the cup, but no defender has ever faced such a tough opponent. The most successful America's Cup challenger ever, Australia 2 dominated the summer's racing. The boat from Perth created yachting history with its controversial winged keel, and the Australians were determined to press the advantage of their boat's superior speed and maneuverability. The U.S. Coast Guard had their hands full to control some 3,000 spectator boats, ranging from 20-foot runabouts to ocean liners, all jockeying for the best position from which to view the race. Australia 2 and Liberty got off to an even start, but on the first leg of the race, the American boat pulled ahead and maintained a commanding lead for the next 3 legs. Sailing enthusiasts who couldn't find room on the spectator boats crowded into bars to watch live coverage of the race. As the boats rounded the 4th mark and began their final downwind run, Liberty was still in control. It seemed impossible for Australia to catch up. But a tactical error on the part of the American skipper, Dennis Conner, allowed the Australian boat to take advantage of the changeable winds. In a dramatic turn of events, Australia 2 pulled ahead. The final mark, Australia 2 had stretched her lead, and the once optimistic American supporters were now subdued. Liberty's only hope was to out-tack the Australian boat on the final leg, but the challenger's superior maneuverability made it impossible for the Americans to break free of her cover. With 15 minutes left in the race, the Australian fans began to celebrate. When Australia 2 crossed the finish line, the longest winning streak in sports history came to an end. For Australian skipper John Bertrand, this was the achievement of a lifetime.
Is victory every bit as sweet as you thought it'd be?
Oh yeah, it's sensational.
Well, it's a fantastic experience to know that we've done what
other people couldn't do. And to know that we've had the backing of all of our fellow Australians in this effort.
Congratulations to you.
Syndicate head Alan Bond, in his fourth challenge for the America's Cup, had made his mark in history.
Thank you.
Bond, you're beautiful people.
Thanks very much.
Beautiful.
All Canadians can feel proud of our first America's Cup challenge in over 100 years. Like the old Nova Scotia champion Bluenose, Canada One is proof that we can compete with the world's best. The Canadian Challenge has rekindled the spirit of our great maritime tradition. And in 1987, the tradition will continue with our next challenge for the America's Cup.